Caden crossed paths with Harper later in life when he was well into his years. The age gap between them exceeded 15 years, a fact that tickled his friends pink. His first wife found it especially hilarious. Despite their divorce, they remained on amicable terms, and he often confided in her. Her reaction to Harper's youthful age on the passport was a belly laugh. Caden took it to heart, feeling hurt that his cherished one was judged prematurely, without the decency of getting to know her first. Harper, at 29, was the last among her friends still single. Meeting Caden seemed like a godsend, and she readily welcomed his courtship. Her mother, however, was less enthusiastic. She merely gave a tight-lipped nod, her disapproval clear. The older woman couldn't see past the significant age gap, but kept her concerns to herself, mindful of her daughter's heartache over being single. Harper dove headfirst into the romance, striving to be the perfect partner in hopes of keeping Caden by her side. However, Caden had no intention of leaving. He was so besotted with Harper that any imperfections she had were invisible to him. Oblivious to it all, he remained unaware when 3 years into their marriage, his wife found solace in the arms of another. The woman hadn't orchestrated an affair. Fate introduced Ethan to her. She was dining with friends in a restaurant where he happened to be hosting an event. Several times, the man approached Harper, showering her with compliments and persistently pleading for her phone number. The attention from Ethan delighted Harper. Her friends teased her, vowing to spill the beans to her husband if she handed over her number. Eventually, she caved under his charming persistence and slipped him the prized 11 digits while her friends were oblivious. After that, Ethan vanished, leaving no trace for a week. Harper had almost forgotten the fleeting encounter when his call finally came, requesting a meeting. No, she firmly answered Ethan's request. Why not? I thought we shared a connection. She could tell from his voice that he was grinning. You misunderstood, she replied cordially, bid him goodbye, and hung up. Ethan wasn't one to easily concede. He bombarded Harper with calls and messages, determined to win her over. It was then she received an extravagant bouquet at her workplace, courtesy of Ethan. She was taken aback. Caden had never wooed her so grandly. Her irritation melted away, and she started regarding her suitor more kindly. Caden couldn't help but notice his wife's constant chatter on the phone and her occasional giggles over some messages. He asked just once about the sender. Friends, Harper responded nonchalantly, leaving it at that, and continued her banter in a group chat. Caden was completely blinded by love for his wife, completely oblivious to her deceit. Initially, Harper was overcome with embarrassment, going to great lengths to hide her phone and avoid communicating with Ethan when she was at home. But as she noticed her husband's lack of suspicion, she gradually let her guard down. Bouquets of flowers began arriving at Harper's workplace one after another, leaving her coworkers in awe of her seemingly perfect relationship with her husband. Some even openly expressed their envy. Harper would smile shyly and blush, unable to reveal the true source of the gifts. It was this overwhelming embarrassment that led her to agree to meet her secret admirer for dinner. Harper told her husband that she was going out with friends, and after work, she headed for the rendezvous. Caden reluctantly let her go, as he cherished their tradition of spending Friday nights together, watching movies and sharing their thoughts on the week that had passed. Contrary to what his friends and ex-wife, Vida, had predicted, Caden and Harper never ran out of things to talk about. They enjoyed conversing for hours on end. The knowledge that he had made the right choice and hadn't been mistaken about his beloved brought immense joy to the man. Following that fateful dinner, love consumed Harper's thoughts completely. She had never before experienced such an overwhelming emotion, one that seemed to erupt from deep within her being. It became clear to her that she had never truly loved Caden and had only married him because she yearned for the title of a wife and the ability to relate to her friends on an equal footing, without feeling pitying glances cast in her direction. Now that she had Ethan, everything had been turned upside down. Her entire past life felt like a distant dream. Caden immediately perceived the shifts occurring in Harper's existence. He had missed the initial warning signs. He initially dismissed his concerns as figments of his imagination, creating non-existent issues within his mind. However, the startling realization that their intimacy was dwindling towards non-existence jolted Caden into a state of alarm. "Honey, are you facing any troubles at work?" he inquired tenderly of his wife. "Everything's perfect," she replied with a smile. However, her smile struck Caden as forced and did nothing to ease his worries. "Could you be upset with me? What's happening with us?" he probed, seeking clarity. Once more, she offered a smile, caressed his cheek, and assured him nothing had shifted in their relationship and that Caden had no grounds for such questions. But once again, it felt untruthful. Caden sensed the dishonesty deep in his core, yet he couldn't pinpoint the cause. A foul, clinging suspicion of betrayal wrapped around him, clouding his judgment. He observed Harper casually receiving texts from an unknown man. She became careless, leaving her phone around without concern, aware that Caden would never think to peek at it. Unafraid of being caught, Caden, not knowing the password, and thus unable to unlock her phone, remained in the dark about who this enigmatic Ethan was and what he wanted with someone else's wife. Choosing silence, Caden resolved to keep a closer watch on Harper for some time longer. Harper worked as a nail technician at a salon. It was her escape, her beloved pastime, that also brought in a decent income. There was always a steady stream of clients, and her husband took immense pride in her talents. After giving it some thought, Caden decided to send his ex-wife, Madeline, on a fact-finding mission. He openly confessed his suspicions to her, and Madeline agreed to assist him. She refrained from mentioning that she had previously warned him, foreseeing that things would ultimately unfold this way. With a nod of acknowledgement, she silently vowed to gather whatever information she could. When Harper spotted her husband's ex-wife walking into the salon, she was taken aback. Madeline had never been one of her clients. Harper couldn't turn her away and began her work. Madeline chatted incessantly, alternating between sharing bits about her own life and firing off a myriad of questions at her conversational partner. "Your flowers are absolutely stunning, worth at least 3 bouquets," the client exclaimed with a smile. Did Caden send them? Did he do something to mess up? Madeline gave a knowing wink. "Ah, yes, he's the one," Harper replied hesitantly and with a hint of confusion. When the ex-wife called Caden to inquire about the 3 expensive bouquets he supposedly sent her, he couldn't comprehend what she was talking about. The woman repeated her question about the flowers and, chuckling, clarified the source of her accusation. The silence on the other end of the line made it clear to her that Caden hadn't sent her anything. He expressed his gratitude to Madeline for her assistance and promptly ended the conversation. As dusk fell, a despondent Caden awaited his wife's return from her job. He had arranged a meal from Harper's preferred eatery and selected a bottle of fine wine. Time seemed to drag interminably for him, and the wine appeared inexhaustible. At last, he perceived that his wife was tipsy, her speech now uninhibited. He asked pointedly, "Who is this Ethan, whose chat notifications keep popping up on your phone, and whose flower arrangements grace your desk at work?" The confrontation escalated quickly, with his wife initially asserting her innocence, then, breaking down into sobs, she admitted her infidelity to her husband. "I love him," she murmured, stifling her tears. It was a devastating blow for Caden. At her admission, he felt as though the ground beneath him vanished and breathing became arduous. And as Harper continued to reveal more, Caden couldn't take it any longer. "Enough," Caden bellowed, slamming his fist on the table. His wife recoiled in shock, covering her mouth with her hand, tears streaming from fright. The rest of the evening passed in mute tension, with both retreating to separate rooms. Throughout the night, sleep eluded Caden. He lost track of the number of times he stepped outside to smoke or felt the urge to storm into his wife's room to resume their argument. The anguish inflicted by his wife's betrayal was suffocating. As dawn approached, Caden conceded that their relationship was beyond salvaging. Their union needed to be dissolved. Harper vacated their shared home before the divorce was finalized. Ethan embraced her, offering the affection and support she needed. Guilt gnawed at her for the pain she had caused her husband, tormenting her with the realization that she should never have married Caden, knowing her heart belonged to another. Harper attempted to reach out to Caden several times, seeking forgiveness, but he was unwilling to engage. Harper was left to accept that her apologies could not undo the past.